Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2008, it's a Ford F350, and we're going to be replacing the battery and the alternator. Now I did check the charging system to make sure that the alternator was no good, which it is charging, no charging voltage whatsoever. We hit it with the jump start box, started up, and as soon as I remove the jump start box, she just dies right out. So we did check the charging system to confirm that the alternator is no good, and we're going to go ahead and replace it now. Okay, first thing we're going to do, like I said, we are going to replace the battery because that battery is no good. So what we're going to do before we do anything is we're going to disconnect both cables, and we'll pull the battery out of the vehicle. Now this is the alternator down inside here. Where that goes, you just get in here with a little scribe or a screwdriver, and you can pop that right out. So we're going to do the exact same thing here. We're going to pop that out. We're going to disconnect this positive lead right here. We're going to remove this bracket up on the top, and we're going to take out those 10mm screws. And then we're going to come over here. Well, actually, let's back up. Before we take off those screws right there, we're going to come down and we're going to disconnect that drive belt, and we're going to take the belt out. Now, down on the bottom, down over here, right here, there's a small little half-inch notch in there. That's how we're going to release the belt and take it off the vehicle. All right, we'll take the belt off the alternator, and then we're going to take out the bolts down the bottom that secure the alternator in place. So it sounds easy, and it's really not that bad. So let's get our tools and get started. And this is the snorkel that I took off so I can gain access to the top of the alternator right there. So that's why that's there. All right, and then of course, then we're going to replace the battery at the same time. So, all right, let's get started, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, like I said, is we're going to disconnect the battery. All right. Okay, now we're going to go down on the bottom of the on that tensioner down here, and we're going to put the tool in. And we're just going to release. It's just a tool like this. I'll put it in here, and then I'll bring you in there, and I'll show you where it's actually going. Okay, see where it goes? It goes right in here, into that tensioner right there, and now we'll just push here like that, and you see how the belt gets that slack in there? So that's what we're going to do. Okay, and we just leave the belt down here like this. We're going to take our tool back out, and now we can remove everything. And then we have the bolt on top. That's our main power lead. That's a 10mm. I'm going to take that bracket off as well. We should take this bracket. I forgot to disconnect the other one right there. Okay, now remember I told you can use a piece called the scribe. It's something like that that's got a little hook on the end, or you can use a small screwdriver, whatever works for you. It looks like the scribe is going to be the best thing to get in there. just like that. And then we're just going to put this off to the side. Now remember, our battery is disconnected, so we don't have to worry about anything with that. Next thing we're going to do is get down underneath here. There's two 10mm bolts. We're going to take those two bolts out, and then we should be able to get the alternator out. We just have to loosen the bolts, and then the alternator comes right up, just like that. And that's our alternator. See how it's slotted on the bottom? All right, so let's grab the new one, and we'll make sure everything looks good, and we'll put it back together. These are your alternators, your original and your replacement. So you always want to make sure you match it up so that everything looks the same. Very important is you need to make sure the grooves on the alternator. Make sure that there's equal number of grooves on this one as there was on this one, because sometimes you can have different belts on there as well. So count how many grooves you have and make sure it's the same on here. Turn it over. Make sure everything lines up as was the old one, just like this. Make sure that they're exactly the same, and of course, make sure that's D-shaped. Make sure your replacement is also D-shaped. All right, which it is. All right, so let's put it back on the truck and wrap this job up. We're going to put the alternator over the top of those bolts, just like that. And now what I always do is, before you tighten up anything down there, put your bracket back here and catch all 4 of the bolts. Okay, so now we have everything caught. Now before we do anything tightening these bolts up, we're going to snug these bolts in down here. Get them pretty close. Now we're not tightening anything up yet. We're just snugging it down so it's close. And now we're going to tighten up the ones on top. Right, and that way, after we have that caught, and we have everything down all the way, we can now tighten up our alternator. Okay, so now everything is tight. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to come down underneath here. We're going to put that drive belt back on. We're going to pull up on the belt, and then we're just going to pry on the tensioner. And the belt is on. And I will show you this in just a second. Okay, I'm going to show you something real quick. Now, you always check your work, because as you can see here, you're going to see down the bottom right there, that belt is not on correctly. So now we're just going to loosen, we're going to go on the tensioner here, we're just going to pull up on it, and we're going to straighten that belt out on that pulley so we don't destroy the belt. Let's take a look one more time. We're on there, we're on there. Okay, everything is where it belongs. Okay? Next thing we're going to do now is we're going to reconnect everything up here. We're going to take out that little 10mm bolt that came with it, the new one. We're going to put our cable on. This is our main lead. Now this you have to be careful. Do not over tighten it, because if you over tighten it, you're going to break it. So we're just going to snug it in there. Just like that. We're going to push our cover back over the top like this. And then we're going to plug these two pieces back in here, the electrical harnesses. And you'll push them in and you'll feel it snap in place. Same thing over here with that D-type thing that I was telling you about. And that's that. All right, so that's in. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this snorkel here back on. Now normally you could start this up. Normally you could start this, but in this case you can't because we have an airflow meter. We can't do it here because we have an airflow meter right here on the side. So we need to have this on because if we try to start this up, it will not run. All right, so let's put this back on. And now we're just going to change our battery real quick. Okay, now there's lots of different type testers. You see, you know I have actually three different kinds here at the shop. Two of them I use all the time. One of them I never use. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to confirm that we have a good alternator now and that everything is charging properly before we send it out the door. All right, so that's pretty much it. It's always good whenever you do a job, whenever you replace the alternator or whatever, always go back and check it to make sure that the alternator is good, the diodes are working properly, and that there's no issues. Worst thing you can do is send this vehicle down the road and have it get stuck. As you can see, this is a big vehicle. We don't want this vehicle being stuck. All right, so that's it. We're going to wrap it up and out the door. All right, as always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.